Sup? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. Spooky, scary RPG horror stories. What is your favorite type of RPG horror story? Doesn't have to be necessarily anything specific, but if you have a specific type, genre, or a specific story you like to see, let me know down in the comment section below. I'll let you know right now. For me, is people realizing their faults and changing their ways around, because I don't like the idea of people having a horrible, miserable time and going away with it being like, God, that was hell, I never want that again. Either way, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. That time I was killed by a healing item. I was just retelling the story and remembered that the subreddit exists. This happened way back in the day. I was probably only 16 or 17. My group was the DM, me, and one other player. We're playing 3.5, and the rules of that system are a bit foggy now. I'm not sure whether this was a homebrew or the actual rules, but either way, you were playing with the rules that if you were down, you lost a hit point every round due to bleeding, and if you hit -10, you died. My character went down by being stuck in the throat, so you ruled that I was losing 3 hit points each round. When combat ended, the other player tried to save me by putting a handful of good berries in my mouth. DM had him roll his intelligence check. I'll be on my deathbed remembering that he rolled a 4. That 4 is seared into my brain, as is the exact dialogue that followed. DM went, "Yeah, looks fine," and went about describing the loot he was getting. After about a minute, he said, "Oh, by the way, OP, you're dead." Obviously, I was surprised and went, "What? Why?" Very calmly, he explained, "He didn't roll well enough to know that you couldn't swallow, so you choked to death." This remains the only time in my nearly 3 decades of playing D&D that I've rage quit a table. Jesus Christ, imagine you're trying to help your friend, but the DM finds a way just to twist it up so that you're hurting your friend. You want to give them a healing potion while they're like, bleeding out? Okay, roll sleight of hand for whatever reason. Oh, you got a 5. Oh, your hand is so shaky, you smash it right in their face and a glass goes down their throat and they die due to more bleeding. You want to use cure wounds? Oh, okay. Roll me athletics. Oh, you got a 5. Okay. Well, you miss touching your friend with cure wounds and they bleed out because you instead touch a rock and heal a rock next to them. Some stupid stuff like that. I don't care what 3.5 says. I don't care what 5e says. I don't care what any edition says. If an ally is trying to help you and there's not some insane check that you gotta do, like let's say for example like a medicine check with healing supplies and you get a natural 1, then just let him heal you. Jesus Christ, it's not that difficult. Anyway, next story. DM had an obsession with my female character's supposed penis that didn't exist. I don't think this qualifies as sexual harassment to warrant the tag, but it's clearly close, so if you're uncomfortable with that subject, you should perhaps still avoid this one. I'm scared of many things, but penis is not one of them. Our very first tabletop experience was when I was still a minor, 16 or 17 female, with another minor who was a friend who invited me and a few adults at one of the adults' house. I was probably not a good player since I'd already heard the D&D at this point, and we're playing Pathfinder, which I didn't realize wasn't just a version of D&D at first. I didn't even have a good grasp on how D&D worked. What I did know is that I'd loved gnolls for years and wanted to play one, specifically a female striped hyena. I'm kind of surprised that gnolls haven't been by now added to D&D 5e as like an official race or species you can play, because that'd be kind of cool, honestly. Gnolls are pretty dope. I think those are actually really neat. I mean, you could play as kobolds, goblins, orcs, and centaurs, and all the other stuff. Why not gnolls? Though I am kind of questionable about you being stuck in a group of adults and stuff. I'm assuming it's like friends of friends of friends, or like people that you know and are close to and not just strangers. I hope not. Either way, let's continue. DM was willing to work with my weird request and was actually quite forgiving and accommodating to my first time player mistakes. But there's one thing he did that really bothered me. He, an adult noticeably older than me by more than a few years, made sly jokes about my character having a penis. Because she's a gnoll, and hyena females have a pseudo penis. What? I mean, yeah, the whole penis question, I have that, but why is your DM talking about your character, since, you're a minor? Why is an adult talking to a minor about your character having about genitalia in general, about anything sexual at all? This seems highly inappropriate, except striped hyenas don't even have that. Spotted hyenas do. Hyena fact incoming. Spotted hyenas are the only hyenids that display the level of unusual sexual genitalia presentation that they are famous for. Are they famous for that? I've never heard this up until this post. Others are either minor enough that it's not even worth noting, or they have nothing out of the ordinary at all. I knew this, but I didn't speak up about it because it was such an awkward position for me to be in back then. Though now that I'm more than a decade older, I wouldn't let it fly for even a second. Even if my character had been a spotted hyena null, it is inappropriate to make those kinds of jokes with an underage girl who you just only met that you haven't discussed RPG boundaries with. I didn't like that. I couldn't predict when something about my character would come up without there suddenly being a wink wink nudge nudge about her supposed cock. I've learned a lot of things today about hyenas that I didn't even think I'd be learning. Holy shit, we just had a whole hyena sex ed. If you didn't know this either, we're in this together. We're in this boat together. If you're an adult and you're talking to a minor that you don't even know at all, even if you know them, don't talk to them about any sort of genitalia or inappropriate topics at all whatsoever. I don't think that even should come up in most D&D games, or really any D&D games at all. Either way, aside from that new knowledge that we learned today, if you're an adult, don't talk to minors about inappropriate things. Just simply don't. We got like one more story, so let's get to the next story for today. DM bends rules to target a new player, kills them before they get to act in combat. I decided to look for Pathfinder 2e game and try it out, as most of my experience was with different versions of D&D as well as Pathfinder 1e. GM told me to learn the rules and make a character and suggested different resources to do so. I built a fighter with Alchemist Dedication, PF2V's version of multiclassing. As I arrived, he went on a bit of a rant about how he had problems with players who were new to the group in the past and how he really had to make sure that newcomers were serious and dedicated. He also mentioned things like, don't ever complain to other players or discuss things with them. Come to me instead. This has to be followed so I can make sure that this is safe and supportive space. I didn't think too much of it. I'm grateful that I've only ever had to kick one player from my tables in all the times I've GM'd. I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt, and especially GMs, they have a lot on their plate. Not letting players complain or discuss anything at all, like even the simplest things with other players, sounds very controlling. Like, I get if there's a problem, obviously you should bring it up to the DM, but let's say for example you have Pathfinder questions, can you not discuss those things or talk about stuff at all to other players? You can only talk to the DM about it? Like, how lenient is this specific ruling? Because it sounds on surface level pretty controlling. I don't know, it was just a vibe that I get. The party balance was 3 established players and 2 newcomers, myself included. The other newcomer was the only girl at the table and was definitely relying on the DM to help her with the rules, figure out how to play, how to build a character, etc. He said, however, that she was playing a fighter and that I should really do what's best for the party and play something else, but that he's not forcing me to change right now. I could change between sessions. I was super bummed out about this. I'd worked hard to plan and build my character, had even what sort of character the party could use before building them. So my goal was frontline to take some of the edge off the squishies while using alchemist elixirs and mutagens with support. The other player very respectfully told him that he should back off a bit, and though the party had been fairly imbalanced at times previously before, had been fine. It's more important for people to play what they find fun and enjoy. I just told him I'd think about it. When it comes to choosing between playing what you want to play and playing something balanced, I honestly think it's up to the group and up to the players to decide what they want to play. Let's say for example it's a group full of casters going up against some enemies. Yeah, they're gonna have a bit of a rough time, but if they strategize and plan really well, they can really use that casting to their advantage. If it ends up being a group with some melee and some casters, gets pretty balanced, there's no problem. If it's a group full of just melee and martials, I mean, they can always just use potions and stuff to compensate for lack of any sort of spell casting, and there's range weapons as well. Players can find their own creative solutions of how they want to advance towards stuff, regardless of the composition. But each table is going to determine that stuff differently, so, to each table is their own, that's what I say. What followed in my mind was a series of events I didn't think about too much, or understand until later, but in hindsight was rule bending to target me and my character. After some roleplay and introduction to the party, we're going through a dungeon that I suspect had traps. I wasn't sure what sort of support stuff to prepare, and was excited because I had prepared an elixir that gave me substantial boost to trap detection. I rolled extremely well and was told there were no traps on a door we were about to open. Cool. We opened it, and I repeated that I'd like to keep an eye out for traps and went down the hallway. He said something like, "I bet you would, wouldn't you?" I was kind of confused, but he didn't let me roll anything, and he didn't roll himself. So I just assumed there were no traps, and he was getting annoyed when I asked. 3 steps later, we all fall into a trap. He started lecturing us on how it's always important to specifically say that you're looking for traps. One player pointed out that I did say explicitly that I was looking for traps, and he responded that I wouldn't have seen that trap anyway. I just figured every table is going to have a rule adjudication, and I didn't agree with as a player. No big deal, right? I'm kind of embarrassed at how naive I was. You go into a room, prepare a specific elixir that gives you more easier trap detection, and you tell DM, I'll open the door that we know isn't trapped and I'll look out for traps. And the DM just goes, "Oh, yeah, I bet you would. Yeah, you definitely would want to do that." Like a little pouty kid's like, "Yeah, I bet you would want to look out for traps, wouldn't you, huh? You just want to ruin my favorite plants for today, huh? That's what you want to do." Instead of being like a regular DM and saying, "Okay, cool," and just, having them roll perception or trap detection or whatever you roll for in Pathfinder for that sort of thing. Anyway, we came across some golem guard that we tried to bluff, and we failed a roll after a few minutes of talking to them, so we rolled initiative. I had Warcry, free chance to frighten the enemy during initiative, but he told me these creatures don't have any emotions, so they can't be frightened. He also ruled that since we didn't explicitly say we were leaving the hallway to enter the room with the guards, that we were all stuck in the hallway and the guards get to surround us and keep us stuck there. Since I did say that, I was helping the first character bluff that was also standing in front of them. "Oh, I'm sorry you have to be so detailed. Hey, DM, I walk inside of the room, inhale to make sure that I inhale oxygen into my lungs, make another step towards the inside of the room, and then exhale on my 3rd step. But as I'm approaching towards the side of the room, I'm specifically using my left leg first so I don't trip over myself and fall on my face. I want to make sure to do a roll to make sure my heart is beating properly, and then blink so my eyes don't dry out. Do we need to follow up and in detail about every specific thing, every minutia that we gotta do? You just assume that players entered the room. Just get the combat rolling. Stop trying to screw people over with some mundane, stupid, dumbass ruling. Seriously, this is getting obnoxious." Anyway, the guard hit me and knocked me into a nearby wall in the hallway. I rolled a save, failed, and lost like 40% of my health from the attack. But at least I was no longer standing next to the enemies. Another character got the same treatment, failed, and got knocked into the wall. DM told me I took another big batch of damage from another 40% of my health left. Thought it was pretty odd because I didn't get to roll anything, which other player pointed out, but he told me it was from the other player getting hit into me. Then also said, because the player is in my space now, I get pushed back to where I was before I got moved, so I was in melee range with the enemies again and became prone in the process. The enemy then proceeded to attack me several more times, multiple attacks being critical hits, which are more likely the lower level you are and the worse your gear is. I started dying. Party did their best to try to heal me and pick me up, but the enemy just kept attacking me while I was down because I couldn't even stand up. One of them said they were using some sort of fear effect on the enemy targeting me, and the DM said okay. Another player pointed out the DM didn't let me try to frighten the enemies. DM responded that the fear is mental, but scaring someone is emotional. So the fear works on Golem, but not the fright. The other players pointed out that the fear ability in question had both mental and emotional traits. He got a bit angry and said fine, neither of them worked. This is such a mess. Is this what Pathfinder has to go through? Jesus Christ. Either this DM is just trying to find a tiny little wording to screw everybody else over, or this is actually what Pathfinder is like. Either they're immune to fear or not immune to fear. Like, why can't we just go with that? Simple as that. Why do we have to figure out if it's a mental fear, emotional fear, metaphysical, physical, tri-dimensional fear? Like, seriously, what? Either the DM is cooking up this crock of crap, or this is actually what Pathfinder players have to go through, and I honestly don't know. DM then suggested to me that I retreat, and it would be fine as long as the enemies didn't have the ability to attack as a reaction. In Pathfinder 2e, opportunity attacks are not available via default. It's a fighter ability. I retreated, and he eagerly cackled and said they did have that ability, which they crit on again, so I was dying. On the enemy's turn, he gleefully announced the same enemy for sure was attacking me while I was down. I was wondering if I was just built my character poorly, and when another player was going over my sheet with me, they caught something. Wait, what? You're level 12? We're all level 13. DM said it's because they're new player. Once they determine they're able to, they will level up to match the party. Also found out later my gear was considerably worse, so the chance to crit against me was probably 3 or 4 times than that as some of the other players. Also realized that despite building for support, there wasn't actually much I could do to help. Being under-leveled and under-geared meant that they had constantly passive bonuses that were greater than what my temporary buffs could give. They even had on-demand healing that outstripped the healing from my consumables. I was a bit bummed and mentioned that I had to sacrifice quite a bit to gain these support abilities, since I gave up class progression for multi-class progression in order to better support the party, which caused the players to immediately turn to the GM and say, "You gave all of us free archetypes, why doesn't the new player have the same?" He responded with the same mantra of, "They're a new player, I had bad experience with new players in the past, this is just until I know they're dedicated." The other player tried to heal me twice, but the DM kept downing me again before my turn, and then started downing the players who were trying to heal me. At this point, I saw the writing on the wall and basically said, "Hey, I appreciate it guys, but mechanically, they're just going to keep downing me. I don't think I'll be able to contribute much in combat, and narratively, you just met me. You guys have a better chance of surviving if you let me die." They seemed apprehensive at first, but healed the player who tried to help me first, and then the enemy's turn came around, and it spent all its attacks finishing me off. This is beyond unfair. Beyond unfair. Because they're new player, you think they're dedicated enough, so you decide to screw them over to basically single them out from the game because they're probably playing a class or multi-class that you don't want it to play, and you just basically want to target a player. If the rest of the players are level 13 and have all their stuff, and this player is level 12, it doesn't have all their stuff, it's basically gridlocked and be stuck to basically have subpar bonuses, then basically they don't got a dog in this fight whatsoever. What's the point then to make them under-leveled just to target them and screw them over? Not only are you screwing over the party because everybody is constantly having to pick this guy up every single time, but also the player can't do anything at all. I'm sorry this was your experience of playing Pathfinder and everything, but like this sucks, dude. This actually sucks. If it was me, I'd just be like, dude, I'm done. I'm just gonna go do something else. Watch paint dry. That sounds way more exhilarating. It was around this time that the other player bowed out, saying they had to be somewhere. I started packing it in as well, but the DM said, "Oh, the session's still going. You can make a new character." Then proceeded to tell me how bad I built my character, how orcs are the class you want for tanks and melee, it's a common rookie mistake to take intimidation related skill feats, etc. He said I could play the character for the new player who left, but that any gold, loot or bonuses would not be kept by me. I agreed and figured out it was still experience learning the system, so I tried to stick around for longer. Wrong move, you should have left. This DM is literally like berating you, you picked the wrong move, it was a rookie mistake. If it was a rookie mistake, then it would have been great if you as a DM would tell the new player, "Hey, don't pick that stuff, pick this stuff instead." But no, they didn't. This GM, this bastard is setting you up for literally failure. They're setting up for failure and mocking you and laughing at you and want to just prove your dedication by literally making you experience trying to play Pathfinder literally impossible. It's not worth playing with somebody like that. Let's continue. Let's see how this ends. Maybe at some point there's some sort of righteous retribution against this dickhead. Combat continued. He skipped my turn. Then when I asked if I could take my turn, he said okay. I approached the nearest enemy, attacked them, then he told me the enemy self-destructed in my face and hurt everyone in the party and took another huge chunk out of my HP, which seemed random and vindictive. He also said the rest of the party found a huge amount of gold similar to the amount I got during character creation, which just really drove home how undergeared I was. There was another encounter that was more social focused, and a party except me got rewarded with a permanent +1 buff to pretty much any d20 roll and all those stats, which kind of would just make the party another level above me, mathematically, sans abilities. I realized at this point I would never be able to contribute to the rest of the party and decided to package it in. DM seemed a bit shocked and confused and wants me to stay, but the rest of the table started saying they had to get going too. Why is this DM shocked to all reason? You wanna leave after I screwed you over so much and made your game really impossible and didn't let you learn any of the mechanics and constantly screwed you over? Shocked. I am shocked you wanna leave. This guy is such a fucking asshole. I hate him. One of the other players told me that what happened during the game was pretty messed up and took some time to explain some of the rules and how they were bent to my disadvantage, which I did really appreciate as I was new to the system. I'd wondered if it was just coincidence, bad luck, or just me not understanding the rules. If any of the other players are reading this, you were all fantastic and a blast to play with. Sorry, I know I was planning on giving this DM a second chance, but after some reflection, I've decided not to return. Yes! God, I'm happy for you. Your time is better spent doing literally anything at all. Looking for a different DM, looking for a different group, looking for different people to teach you Pathfinder, then come back to here. The other players seem fine. Maybe they're okay. But this DM sucks so much. They're the worst. Don't come back to this game. Don't associate with this DM. This DM or GM, whatever you want to call it, is so vindictive and petty as fuck. They're the worst. Stay away from them. 0 out of 10, would not recommend. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.